Welcome to the Lindsay and Tony podcast, where we talk about spirituality, business, and life experiences.
In this podcast, we're bringing our private conversations to you.
We believe that it's through discussion, action, and reflection that true change occurs.
Hey everybody, this is the very first episode of the Lindsay and Tony podcast, and we're so excited that you're joining us on this first episode. In this episode, we're going to talk all about intuition and how you could use it as a tool to transform your relationships, your career, and every area of your life. In this episode, you will learn the big misconception about using your intuition, how our intuition guided us in creating this podcast, so the story behind that, and why being open to your intuition is the key to activating it, and why you should write down your intuitive hits, and why moving your body benefits your intuition, and why using everything around you as tools for your intuition is key. I hope you enjoy the show.
I'm so excited about today. This is our very first podcast, and I can't wait. But Tony, I want to know how you're feeling since this is your first one.
I'm feeling pretty excited too. Of course, this is my first one, so it's different doing a podcast. You've done your radio show before, Lindsay, obviously, for several years. So this is going to take getting used to, but at the same time, I'm very excited because I look at this podcast that we're doing as an educational platform for us to share information with people and to share our stories in order to help people.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing we did in the public school systems.
That's true.
When we taught there, we had a classroom. And I look at the podcast like this is another vehicle like the classroom was. So I'm very excited for this.
Definitely. And I feel like our whole episode is all about intuition. And we should share our story on how we met, how we even started the video podcast. But first, we should probably talk about what is the definition of intuition.
Definitely.
So
ladies first.
Okay. I feel like intuition is that inner knowing inside that we're all born with. So our soul is something that we all have, and our soul is connected to the higher consciousness, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. We're all one anyways, and it's tuning into that, tuning into those subtle signs that come to us every single moment of our life, paying attention to that energy, that universal energy that knows. It's the all-knowing. And I think if we tune into that, our life, our business, everything can shift. And I feel like that's what happened for us.
I love that definition. And as you were saying it, I was picturing little antennas on our head that kind of pick up energy, that pick up the truth of everything.
Yeah.
And it's like what you said. It's like we're all one. So when we're tapping into our intuition, we're actually tapping into who we truly are, the truth of who we are. So my simple definition for intuition would be it's God of the universe actually speaking to us.
Yeah.
And giving us guidance on what decisions to make, who to speak with, how to speak with them. Pretty much everything that has to do with life, our intuition or God of the universe is actually guiding us and telling us exactly what to do with each situation we're in.
That's a really good point. I love that. And I feel like one of the things that comes up from my clients is they'll say, well, is my intuition working or is it my fear? Because a lot of people have this preconceived notion that our intuition works when something bad's about to happen, and that's the only time it happens. But that's not true at all. It's really the lens that we're looking from. So it's the awareness of what are you focusing on in your life. And I know that we've had this conversation before, Tony, about the news and how we don't watch the news. And I know you've mentioned that in the morning time, people wake up and they...
Right. Most people, if you look at their day, most people, the average person, they wake up and they watch the news. That's just what they do. It's just in their paradigm. It's what they do without even thinking about it. So I think where you're getting at with this is with our intuition, we have these sensors, we have these filters that information must pass through in order for us to actually pay attention to it. And that's our belief system. That's our filters are the belief system. So a lot of times when people are watching the news and negativity and and thinking the world's a negative place because all of this information that they're piling into their brain, they start to get negative intuitions all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens with a lot of people is, like for me, now that you said that, I'm thinking back, you're right. A lot of people, most people that actually tell me that they use their intuition, and I'm talking when I was in elementary, middle, high school, throughout my life, I can remember people saying, yeah, my stomach just told me not to talk to that guy.
Yeah.
Or my instinct told me to make a right, and then a semi came flying by right after. It's a lot of negative stuff that it's tied to.
Yeah.
And I think that's why me and you love doing our podcast and everything, so we could bring a positive light to this. So we could show people that you could actually use your intuition as a valuable tool for positivity as well.
Yes. And that's the most important thing, is to know that you have two choices every day when you wake up. And of course, this is the thing. This is what I really want to say. We're both into the law of attraction, and, you know, we believe in like positive and negative. But to be real with the situation, we're not always positive.
Oh,
Definitely
right.
not. So I feel like if we are seeing through one lens and we're having a miserable day, or we wake up and we're moody, which can happen when we're both hangry, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Or we're really
when
hungry.
you're hangry.
Hey,
No, I'm
no,
just
you
kidding.
are too. But anyways, but I feel like that it happens. We're humans, of course. We all are human, so we're gonna have different emotions, and that's actually healthy. To shut down our emotions is not healthy. To pretend that we're positive when we're not is not healthy. And I used to do that, and I don't do that anymore because it's too much energy, doesn't it?
It's very draining, right? Because you're trying to act. You hear about the law of attraction. You're like, oh, I got to be positive in order to have a positive life, which is, there's truth to it. You want to focus on the good and everything, but at the same time, you got to let whatever emotions that are going through your body and what you're experiencing, you got to experience them fully in order to release them. So, tying that to intuition, a lot of that, when you suppress that emotion, it actually starts to clog up the link from our intuition, and we start to, we don't see as clearly, which is why towards the end of this podcast, we're going to give people practical stuff, habits that they could perform on a day-to-day basis that will actually keep that link cleansed, to where whenever they have the down moments, like we all do, like you were saying, we might seem like we're all positive and everything, which we are most of the time, but we're still humans, and we still need to put in habits on a daily basis that actually cleanses the link that is attached to our intuition.
Yes.
The best way I could describe it.
No, that's a perfectly good way. And I feel like the reason we're doing this podcast too is because we have these conversations like every day, whether it's at our kitchen table or we go to coffee shops, we're traveling to different places, different states, countries, down the road, to the beach. Every single day, this is our conversation.
Right.
So I think taking our conversations and making them public may help people.
Oh, it absolutely will help people. That's how I was helped.
I know.
If you're presented the right information in the right moment, it helps you. And that's what happened with me with Bob Proctor and the Law of Attraction and several other books.
Yeah.
I was ready. And I think that's a lot of listeners here. Some might be ready for this. Some might not be ready. Some might listen to the whole 30 minutes or however long it ends up being, and they might pick one little piece of information that works with them. So I want to advise everybody listening to just stay open. Everything might not fit what you need right now.
Yeah.
But if you stay open to the information and listen to it and be fully present in this podcast right now, you could actually end up extracting a couple of ideas that could have so much impact in your life.
Yeah. And it's this stuff that you already know inside. Sometimes you just need to hear it a different way or read it a different way in your life.
Exactly.
But I feel like we should talk about, first, let's talk about the podcast, because I feel like this is important, and I'll tell the story in a quick way, and then maybe you can tell the story about how we met, because I feel like we used our intuition for that too. With the podcast, I had my show for years, my radio show. And when I had that inner nudge that something had to shift, you know, when you are excited about something for a while and then something shifts, like, wait, something doesn't feel right. It's time for a change. I got that feeling. I got the nudge. Okay, it's time to switch from my radio show where people are just listening to me to switch to a video podcast. And I wanted to free up my time because Tony and I, we love traveling. Like I said, we have family in 2 different states, Boston and Missouri. And I just wanted that freedom. I didn't want to have to stay committed to every Monday night. I need to be ready and be live and be ready to interview people. I'm like, okay, something has to shift. And I told Tony, okay, I want you to come on the show. I think we should host it together. And I remember getting so excited about the thought of it because I felt like it would be perfect. And Tony's like, it's not the right time. When it's time, I'll let you know. I know we're going to be doing stuff together, but I'm still teaching right now. And that was 12 months ago. And then one night we went out to eat in Dunedin, Florida. And what happened?
Yeah, we went out to eat. Well, actually, it was before we went out to eat. We were walking on the strip in Dunedin, which is beautiful down there. If you've never been, go to Dunedin, Florida. It's a beautiful little older beachy town. So we're walking on there looking for a place to eat, and all of a sudden it hit me that I knew that we had to do the podcast. Like I got this vision and inspiration randomly, and I want to point this out that a lot of times that's what will happen is you'll be doing something else. We were having fun walking through Old Town Dunedin, and then bam, this inspiration struck me that I was supposed to do the podcast with Lindsay. And I felt as if, actually, to be very clear here, I felt as if Dr. Wayne Dyer was coming through me in the moment, because what happened was I was walking and then I got the inspiration and then I felt Dr. Wayne Dyer. I feel very connected to Dr. Dyer. I read a lot of his work, and he's had a huge impact on my life. So this happens a lot, and this happened that night. And all of a sudden, after the inspiration and after it became very clear and I caught the vision and I knew that this would be our what we're going to be using, Dr. Dyer actually moved my head. Like I felt something nudge my head to look up at a sign, and there was like several words on the sign, and the word vehicle stood out on the sign out of all of these words. And it was Dr. Dyer, or you could say it was a universe, because we are all one, telling me that this podcast is the next vehicle that Lindsay and I will be using to actually educate people and to share information with people. So
I love it.
I thought that was a pretty interesting night. And this has happened so many times. And I want to be clear here too that before that night 2 months ago, and before, once again, Lindsay brought up when we first met, we used our intuition. That was about 7 years ago. Before all of this, we were open to intuition. And we were actually learning about it and becoming aware of it. And I think that's a big key in all of this, is to have an open mind with intuition. Yeah. And then you start to allow these experiences to flow into your life at a much more rapid pace, and it seems effortless, actually.
That's so true, because it's like a muscle. I know you're really into working out, Tony. Mm-hmm. So this is a good analogy for you and the people that are into working out. But it is like a muscle. The more that you use it and the more that you trust it, that's when more experiences will come. And I feel like we don't have to save the actionable items for our intuition to the end too, because I feel like that's one thing that you could write down right now, is that actionable step to take note. I always tell this to my students, and we just had a conversation about it the other day. Keep a journal that's an intuition journal, where if you get an intuitive hit and you feel that nudge, okay, like Tony said, he saw the sign up, he was nudged to look over there. Write that down, put the date next to it, and maybe you don't know why you're seeing the sign. Like, luckily, because you've had enough practice, you knew exactly what it meant in the moment. Right. But sometimes you don't know why. You're like, wait, there is something that's nudging me to see this sunflower, or there's something nudging me to hear this song right when I wake up in the morning. Write it down, and normally it will probably make sense later that day. The dots will be connected, maybe later that week. If not, you still have it in this little journal, and check back and give yourself credit when your intuition is on point. And that's like the teacher in us, I think, because I was a third grade teacher, Tony was a teacher, and I think that positive reinforcement really helps.
It absolutely does help. And not everybody is going to want to write this stuff down. Some
Yeah.
people might want to make a video about it. Some people, it doesn't matter how you do it. The point here is, I think writing it down is actually one of the best ways in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the point here is to actually log it, right? To log it like we did in the classrooms with everything,
Yeah.
to bring our awareness up. And that's what it is. And then reflect on it. And I think that's one of the most underrated things on learning is reflection. And if you ever went through a bachelor's program for teaching, you'll know all about reflecting.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we
because
had
they
to
have you
write
reflect about
papers.
everything, which I'm so grateful for. Looking back, even though at the time I was like, oh my gosh, another reflection.
Oh, I hated those
But-
papers. But then after it,
Then after, it teaches you to be more of a reflective person. And I believe that is one of the most valuable skills too, is being reflective on your experiences. Because you could take information like me and Lindsay's giving you right now, and you could listen to it and you'd be like, oh, that makes sense. But guess what? There's a much more detailed process to it to actually start to apply it into your life and to actually get results from the information. So you got to take it and you got to listen to it, and then you got to apply it and then reflect on it and then listen to it, apply it. It's a never-ending process, and eventually through journaling and through doing all of that, you'll start to create your own unique take on how to use the intuition, which I
Yes.
believe we all have our own uniqueness when it comes to actually accessing this and then understanding what it is telling us. So an actionable step that so Lindsay gave you to log your intuition anytime you're aware of it. I would say on a daily basis, you want to move your body. And this benefits, in my opinion, and actually scientifically it's proven, pretty much almost every part of your life. If you move your body on a daily, weekly basis, you actually will start to clear the link of intuition. So, for example, Albert Einstein would always say if he needed ideas, and a lot of you probably heard this before, if he needed ideas, he'd go for a walk. And a lot of you could probably relate to where if you go for a walk, or if you go on a bike ride, or if you go play a sport or a hobby that you love to do, you'll actually start to receive the answers from the previous days, or actually from that day. And that's because you're clearing that link to your intuition. So my advice would be to move every day. I would say for at least 30 minutes per
and
day.
you've taught
Break
me
a
that.
sweat.
You really taught me that, because I feel like in between my readings that I do with clients, going outside clears my head, but also that's when the intuitive information comes through.
Right, because you're not only moving your blood, you're getting fresh oxygen into your body, which if you were looking at us like we're a car, our oxygen is the gas and the oil. Like, you got to have that in a car. The more fresh oxygen we have, the better that all of our mental faculties will end up doing. So there's a lot, and it's even more deep than that. So the point is to get moving, 30
Yes.
minutes or more per day. And yes, this will benefit your intuition.
And one of the things that I want to say about moving, because this actually helped me, and it kind of goes back to the story, the intuition and how it worked for us when we met. Back in 2007, I went through a really, really difficult time in my life, and I met someone at University of Tampa. We had planned on getting married. His name is Nick, and he passed away in a motorcycle accident. And after that, everything shut down in my life. And the thing that actually got me receiving more messages from him, because I was tuning into him spiritually and he was communicating with me, was when I went outside and I was walking and I got these messages from him. And it was when I was walking that it got me out of my bed, even if I was wearing his sweatpants and sweatshirt, like to get out of bed. But I got out of bed. And that's the big thing. And it really was walking in nature, like you said, getting oxygen. It moved me through the depression that I was in. But the most important thing that I want to say about the intuitive stuff was I met Tony in 2010, December 6th. And actually, we've been on the phone, right?
Right. So it was on the phone that night. Like Lindsay said, she was with Nick, and they were in love and they were planning on getting married. They had this whole vision of their future, and then unfortunately Nick ended up passing away in a motorcycle accident. So Nick was actually my childhood friend growing up. We were best friends growing up. Nick's older brother John, and my older brother Mark, they were best friends too. And we played basketball. We did everything together, and that's how me and Lindsay are connected. So what happened was Nick passed away in 2007. Me and Lindsay were friends on Facebook together from that point on, because after Nick passed away, we all kind of connected, and it was a sad time. And at that time, I never met Lindsay, but I was friends with her on Facebook. So fast forward about 3.5 years later, December 6, 2010, I was actually out to eat with my friend Drew, and we were watching, it was either Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football, and I got a phone call from Lindsay, and it showed up on my phone as Lindsay because she was on my Facebook contacts. And I was actually scared to answer it. So it went to my voicemail, and immediately I listened to my voicemail after you left the voicemail. I listened to it, as you know, and then I immediately went outside in the winter of St. Louis in December, and it was freezing, and I talked to Lindsay for about an hour and a half. And after that, I realized I better get back inside because Drew was probably wondering where I was at, and I think Lindsay even said something like that. She's like, "Hey, your friend's probably wondering where you're at. You better get back inside." So I went back inside. Later on that night, when I got home at about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, me and Lindsay talked again on the phone. And we talked for, 5 or 6 hours that night?
Like 6 hours.
And when I got off the phone, and even when I was on the phone, I knew that I had to be with Lindsay. How did I know? My intuition. So I was open to this idea. 2 years before that, I came across the law of attraction. So I was open to all this. And I was practicing it every day and open to it. And then I paid attention to it when it happened. And it told me, my body told me, I could tell my thoughts, everything was clear, my feeling in my heart, everything. It wasn't infatuation. I was single for 3.5 years. I did not want a girlfriend.
And I didn't want a boyfriend.
Lindsay didn't want a
either.
boyfriend. She was single
Since
Nick passed away. She wasn't ready. So it kind of just all happened, and we trusted our intuition. And Lindsay felt the same way.
I did. And it came over my body, like this intuitive feeling without a doubt. Of course, me being the person that I am, I would never, ever have someone come from Missouri to Florida that I've never met in person in my life.
Right.
But Tony came that month, and you could feel it in the physical body. Sometimes your intuition, and that's probably our last actionable step, is focusing on we talked about moving the physical body, but now focusing on the physical feelings in your body. Like I had goosebumps.
Right.
I had this feeling in my heart and soul where it opened up. There was without a doubt, we knew we were supposed to be together. And this was not planned. This is something that happened.
It just happened, right? I had no idea. I'd never thought about being with Lindsay. It just kind of happened. When you're open and you allow things to happen, they actually happen in the best way possible. And I think that's what this is all about here. And going back to the intuition, I look at everything as a toolbox. So like all the signs, the road signs, everything in this room, my body, my thoughts, my feelings, my senses, so I could smell flowers. We could use everything that we have, and our intuition will use that to communicate with us.
Exactly.
And that's the thing that we have to become aware of. So become aware of all of that. Your thoughts, your feelings, your senses, like the smell, taste. I know sometimes when Lindsay's doing readings, she'll start to taste cigarette smoke. So we could all develop all of this. My intuition likes to use physical road signs and my body and feelings, pretty much all of it, but it gets very clear with the road signs. Because I start to read, it starts to, like Wayne Dyer did with the vehicle, and it starts to go bam, bam. It goes very quickly.
It's very fast.
Very fast. So we got to be, I think the number one key is to be in a relaxed state. That's why we have to have habits every day that cause us, like whether it's meditation, yoga, moving your body. We have to be in a relaxed state, and then we have to be open to it, and then it starts to happen at a much faster rate.
And if you're tuning into this and you're like, I want to feel intuitive thoughts and I never get it, you got to be patient with yourself too. Be patient with yourself. So what we should leave them with is a reminder of the actionable steps, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So if we could leave you with anything today, remember that the first step is to get a little notebook, record your intuitive hits. Second one is, you said?
Yeah, is to get moving every day.
Get
right? It's January right now. I don't know exactly the day, but it's January 2018. And if you move every day, that's going to do your other goal that I know you probably made is a fitness goal this year. So get moving for that, but also look at it, because I look at the more reasons you have to do something, the more likely you will do it. So this is another reason to get moving. 30 minutes or more per day, whether it's walking, jogging, riding your bike. You might be like me to where you do play sports every day. It doesn't matter what it is. Get moving every day and start to clear that link to your intuition.
Yeah. And the last one is just becoming aware of those physical sensations, because it may come up in a physical way with goosebumps or an opening of the heart. So, and you can receive these pieces of intuition in so many different ways, but this is just a quick way to kind of start for you. We are so happy that you joined us, aren't we?
I'm so excited.
Like, Tony, you did awesome for this.
You did too, yeah. I'm excited. I love this.
Okay. Well, we will talk to you guys next time.
All right. See you guys next time.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.